Test, test. Good morning, everyone. Feel free to fill up the chairs up the front. There's only a few of us here. I guess before I get started, can I get a quick show of hands as to how many builders we have in the room? Any builders here? Okay. And any non-technical people? Okay, got it. Cool. So I'm Jaz. I'm the co-founder and head of product over at Catalog. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how we're bringing Bitcoin to the Avalanche ecosystem and forcing every dApp on Avalanche to use Bitcoin. So first, I'll just start with a bit of a background on myself and on Catalog. So I've been in the cross-chain space for the last 5 or 6 years. I was a part of Ren Protocol back in 2017. We launched Ren BTC, which some of you guys might have heard of, which had over $10 billion worth of volume go through it, bridging Bitcoin to Ethereum, Avalanche, Polygon, all sorts of chains. And last year, we started Catalog with the sole purpose to make using multi-chain as accessible and easy as possible for the everyday user. So having been in the cross-chain space for so long, very aware of all the amazing technologies being built in the space, but I think it's no secret that there are a lot of drawbacks with a lot of the current solutions. So I'm actually going to quickly spin up one of the current approaches for bridging Bitcoin on Avalanche, and I'm just going to let that run in the background while we do our presentation. So I've just got Core App installed here, and I've got some Bitcoin already added to the wallet. And I want some Joe tokens on Avalanche. So first, I'm just going to bridge this Bitcoin over. This is live. So this is Core Wallet. This is an our product. So if there are any issues with it, it's a sign we need some change. I might come back to this. But I think a lot of you might already be familiar with a lot of the complexities of bridging assets between chains. Using Bitcoin on Avalanche, you have to use wrapped assets. So generally, you send Bitcoin somewhere to a deposit address, and then you get provided with a signature to mint a wrapped version of that asset on the chain, and then you go to another decentralized exchange, for example, to trade that asset to Joe in this case, or whichever asset you choose. So a lot of this requires some form of trust of this custodian network that's going to be holding the Bitcoin. It's not super intuitive for the average user. Just to do Bitcoin to Joe trade, I need to hold Avalanche as well, like the AVAX token for gas. There are liquidity issues, so you need to recreate a lot of the liquidity pools. Meaning if there are already pools spun up on Uniswap or on Trader Joe deck, create those with the new wrap. The more chains you support, the more of these liquidity pools you need to create. And a lot of the times this can be slow and expensive as well. So you have to incentivize this MPC network that's custodying the Bitcoin, or it could be slow because you have to wait for confirmations. So now we're working on Catalog Wallet, which is an easy way to store your Bitcoin, to store any kind of asset, swap them between Catalog accounts, and use them on the decentralized web. So this is a browser extension as well as a mobile app. You can send and receive any kind of asset on any chain, Solana, Avalanche, or NFTs, anything. All trustlessly, of course. Now I'm just going to quickly run through a demo because it's got some pretty unique features that I'd like to show off. So here we have a web browser with the Catalog wallet installed, and we're on Trader Joe DEX right now. So if I just run through, you'll see we have the Avalanche chain selected, but as you can see, we now have Bitcoin available in the dropdown. So this is native Bitcoin. If you visit Trader Joe DEX today, you won't be able to see this Bitcoin asset, but since I have Catalog wallet installed, it shows on the DEX. This is the balance that I have in my Bitcoin wallet, in my Catalog wallet. And I'm just going to trade that directly to Joe token. So Catalog splits this trade up into multiple portions. So we have the trade happening on the native side, which is the Bitcoin to, for example, USDC on Avalanche trade. And then we have the USDC to Joe trade that is happening through Trader Joe's DEX. And now we have Catalog Wallet processing the transaction. This is entirely atomic, so the trade either fully happens or it doesn't. So you're not stuck with any intermediate assets. And as you can see, I didn't require any gas tokens, as it's just taken from the trade itself. This is all real time. I just had Bitcoin in my Catalog wallet to begin with, and this is the amount of time it'll take to do a trade on the Avalanche ecosystem. And that's done there. So you can see I've received Joe for my Bitcoin. This is live on mainnet. And you can see the Explorer links here with the USDC to Joe side of the trade. And you can see the remaining details inside the Catalog wallet. Now, of course, this design is just a prototype. Technically, all of this is ready, but we haven't prioritized the design in order to get this ready by this conference. All right, cool. So now, let's compare that flow with the previous one. That was entirely instant, so no confirmations needed on the Bitcoin side. It was cheaper than the previous process, so this is an atomic swap, so it's happening P2P essentially. So there's no network that needs to be incentivized to custody your Bitcoin. It was seamless, so no gas assets required. And as I said earlier, it's entirely atomic, so the trade either fully happens or it doesn't happen. So how do you go about integrating this into your DEX? As you can see, that was like a pretty unique experience. Like this is the actual Trader Joe XYZ website. Trader Joe themselves haven't had to do any integration into their code with this example. This is entirely injected by the Catalog wallet. So there are actually two ways of integrating Catalog.js and Bitcoin into your dApp. One is through the dApp itself. So Trader Joe could integrate Catalog.js so that anyone who has a Catalog wallet installed can access Bitcoin directly. And then the second way of doing so is integrating with Catalog wallet. So you can open a PR in the Catalog repository, in the Catalog wallet repository, to show how to intercept network requests when a user visits the Trader Joe website. And it's essentially a third-party integration. So even though we're not directly involved in Trader Joe or Uniswap team, we can easily open a PR for Catalog wallet and allow anyone using the Catalog wallet to access Bitcoin directly. Cool, let's go back to this. It seems to be ready. I'm just going to go through this briefly as a sake of comparison. You can see I'm sending 0.00125 Bitcoin, and it's been started. So I already had Bitcoin in my wallet. Even then, I have to wait for another 6 confirmations to have these assets bridged over to Avalanche. And then once that's done, I need to find a DEX that supports BTCB to Joe. And then I'll wait for confirmations again. I'll need the Avalanche token. As you can see, that's a lot more cumbersome than the type of experience I showed earlier. I think this would take, assuming 10 minutes per confirmation, upwards of an hour just to do a simple trade. I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions, so I might just open the floor up now. And actually, I'll bring my co-founder up as well, Sisruth. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, hi. Just maybe because I was a bit late, so apologies for that. When you're trading from your Bitcoin wallet, it's doing a initial swap into a wrapped version. Did you say it is going to be a wrapped version?
So no, so what we do is we actually do a HTLC atomic swap from BTC to USDC. which is just like any stable coin. So you could actually go from, let's say, BTC on, let's say, on Bitcoin blockchain to USDC on like any of the supported chains. So for example, Solana, like Avalanche, Ethereum, or like any chain into USDC. And then the USDC to Joe trade actually happens on like the DEX you are using currently. So there is like no wrapped asset anywhere in our like whole flow.
And how about coming the other way? Same process. Going back the other way into your Bitcoin wallets, just reverse.
Yeah, it will also happen. So like the Joe is converted to USDC, and the USDC is like atomic swap back into Bitcoin, and everything is instant.
Cool. No, I like it. Oh, there you go.
Hey, great job. What you guys are doing, I think, is pretty cool. So, question, and I mean, no disrespect by this, but if this was so amazing, why didn't Avalanche? Obviously, Avalanche, the core wallet, is your competitor, right?
Yep.
So, why didn't they just do it your way? Obviously, there is a trade-off for the speed, and there has to be some kind of security vulnerability.
So, as Jaz said, like in the beginning, so we actually have been like working in the cross-chain space for almost like 5 years now. So we have like built like multiple cross-chain systems. Like you would have like heard about like Ren. Like we actually like bridged almost like $13 billion in like assets without like a single hack ever. I think it's like Ren was like the only system that was like ever like never hacked.
What happened to Ren? I'm not familiar with it.
So like Ren was actually acquired by like Alameda, and like I think Alameda's like recent like bankruptcy just like got all the Ren's assets into like a bankruptcy court. So it's just like stuck there in like a bankruptcy court like for the next few months. Like I think like they are actually like trying to set up like a new foundation to just like move all the IP there. And they're working on like a new version of like Ren 2.0, like I think hopefully like starting in like a few months from now.
So the use case here for you guys is you're really targeting traders for speed.
Yeah, so we are actually like targeting like a specific use case of like cross-chain bridging. So there are like multiple use cases, right? Like for example, people do bridge BTC to actually use it as a collateral, for example. So we are not targeting that market. We are like more targeting like the people who want to, let's say, use Bitcoin to buy stuff. So buy anything, like for example, they can buy fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens, whatever. But like people who just like want to like do a transaction of Bitcoin to actually just like acquire like a different asset is like the only people we are actually targeting. So we are just like trying to like specialize so that we can actually give like a better experience than like, for example, Core App or like even WBTC or like a lot of other like wrapped assets. So we are just like specializing to make sure that like our experience is better.
So just one idea, like I always think about this, there's always a spread between BCB and BTC, and it's just, I know it's gonna take a long time to actually execute the trade. So I mean, I think that would be a great use case
exactly.
for your product to capitalize on the spreads.
So we actually like, I think when we were like working on Ren, we actually found out that like a lot of trading was literally happening between Ren BTC and WBTC. So the only reason like people were using like Ren BTC was like to actually convert BTC to WBTC. It was just like this like middle asset that people have to use to actually get to like their ends. Than like what they would actually use in like DeFi. So we actually thought that like, I mean like since we did like $13 billion in like volume, and out of which like I would say like $8 to $9 billion was just like going into like WBTC. This way people could actually go into WBTC like way easier, way quicker, because it's just like, I mean like we don't even have like the trend BTC thing in the middle, and people are actually paying us like 0.36, like 36 pips as like fee to actually do all this bridging. And like with our like new system, like the fees would be like far lower. So, and it's like far like safer and like cost efficient for us to actually like run this like system compared to Ren, because like Ren we had to like incentivize like a 2,200 like node network. We had to like pay them fees and all these things. Like with our new system, there is like no network at all. It's just like completely happens through like peer-to-peer trading of like BTC to like USDC. So currently we actually have our own like arbitrage bot that is like doing the second side of the trade. So when like we were going from BTC to like Joe, like the BTC to USDC trade was like being executed by like an market maker that we built. But when we actually launched the product, all these things would be like fully open source. Anyone can run these like bots and like actually like provide the second side of the trade. So the idea is that like if people do run like these bots and let's say they connect it to Binance, then the actual the price on our system would be like as good as Binance, which is like crazy. Like in a DeFi system like that is completely decentralized and completely self-custodied, you actually get like the same rates as like Binance, which is pretty cool from our side.
And to answer your question around why Avalanche wouldn't just use this over something like Core Wallet, it's because we haven't launched yet. So we've gone through one beta period at the end of last year, received some good feedback, and are now on the verge of releasing our second private beta. We've just launched a refreshed landing page preview with some new designs, and this new Trader Joe demo that I just showed, we got ready in the last week or two. So I think over the coming months, we'll start to see a lot more integrations with other chains, a lot more support from guys like Avalanche and the broader community. And we hope to be competing with guys like Core Wallet at a much bigger scale over the coming months.
Do we have a wallet just like Core Wallet? So do we actually have to have a Bitcoin wallet on your app and then another wallet, maybe Ethereum or Avalanche on your? It's the same concept as Core Wallet, right?
Yeah, so like Catalog has like a multi-chain wallet. So like one of the other things that we were like trying to do is like to actually remove the concept of like blockchains from our wallet. So blockchains like are like a technical concept, right? Like for example, people who are using emails don't know about SMTP servers. So we actually wanted to create like a similar experience with our wallet where people can just like think about assets and not chains. Since like these assets can be used on like any dApp on any chain. So people will think that, you know, like they have assets in their wallet and they can use the assets on, let's say, Uniswap or Trader Joe or like any DEX that they can actually use. And the assets just show up and like they can just like trade as if it is like literally the asset on the same chain. That's the whole idea.
Hi, so I have two questions. One is with the intermediary USDC. Is there, and the bigger questions about the liquidity pools and the incentivizing of them. Can you choose a different coin in the middle from USDC? And could you just talk a little more about how the back end works with what's going on behind the scenes?
Yep. So yeah, USDC is just like the asset we are currently using. Like we can use like any asset. It actually depends on the market maker. So like the market maker can actually make the choice on like what asset they want to support with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is again like the first asset that we just want to show because like Bitcoin is like the biggest asset. But we can actually do the same thing with like all Solana-based assets or like let's say Sui, Aptos, like whichever like chain. So our like system is like pretty blockchain agnostic. So we can actually like literally build our like spokes on all chains, and you could actually, for example, use let's say Solana or like let's say SRM tokens directly on Trader Joe on Avalanche, for example, to actually like make a trade. So that's like the long-term goal of it, like initially, but we know that like most of the liquidity actually is in like Bitcoin, so we want to just like focus on the Bitcoin experience and like making sure that we have like Bitcoin on all chains. And yeah, like once like we have that done, like once we are like pretty good with that, like we will start adding like new assets and like new chains so that yeah, you just like get this like holistic experience when you are using like our wallet. You just like put funds in our wallet and you can just like do whatever you want with those funds. And we are also like working on like hardware wallet support so that like you don't even have to like trust us. Like you can just like trust your like ledger to actually do all the transactions that like you should be doing. So that like we also like skip that like trust part that you would have to like trust like a new project or new company. Like next to it, like we'll also be like open sourcing all our code so that like you can know 100% be sure that like nothing fishy is happening. Like everything is like good and like everything is like according to like the spec that we actually will release like in the next few weeks as well.
So if I wanted to become a liquidity provider, then I would stake some USDC and some BTC and then set a fee, or how does that work?
So yeah, like we're actually like trying to create like liquidity providers of like multiple varieties. So like the easiest thing that anyone can actually like spin up is this like Binance Market Maker. So you just have to like install this like app, install this bot, run it with like a Binance API, and just like deposit BTC and USDC into it. And like this bot will just like manage your like portfolio across like Bitcoin, like Binance and like your like assets, so that you have like no risk. Like so it always like balances your assets across like those two things, so that like you are actually like generating money. And you can set like a slippage saying that like I only want to trade like when the profit is let's say 0.5% at the end of the whole trade. So let's say I want to always make like 25 bips or like 50 bips. And yeah, you can just like run that bot with that, and yeah, like whenever your trade is actually like the best price, you will be like picked and you will be like traded across like the user.
Yeah, you should talk to the Dexalot people here,
Yeah.
get them using it. Yeah.
So you mentioned a market maker. At the moment, in that demo, who or what is the market maker?
So we are actually running like a very basic market maker. So our like market
So
maker
it's you?
yeah, So
Okay.
like it's our like bot that is actually running behind the screens.
But others can provide options for that in
Exactly.
the future to decentralize.
Exactly. So that's the idea. Like, so we just like for the demo, we wanted like a very simple market maker that just like works across just like Binance like price feed. We just like deposited BTC and USDC. It gets like price from Binance and just like makes a trade across against like any user that is trying to do the trade.
You've got the hottest hand, man. Actually, I've got one last one, I promise.
No worries.
Okay, so you're using the Bitcoin wallets at the moment. Where does Lightning fit into you? You were talking about payments, and speed. So
Yep.
Lightning on the agenda.
So we actually like, so our system that actually allows us to like skip confirmations is actually like based on Lightning networks like tech. So we use like a similar system where like you have this 2-on-2 multisig that you actually like deposit your funds to. Everything happens like without you actually like specifically setting it up. And it is just like set up in such a way that like, so similar to Lightning Network where you can actually deposit funds into like a Lightning channel and you can actually withdraw it like without the other person actually like, you know, agreeing to it. The way you do it is because by accepting that like you can actually withdraw like with just one signature beforehand. So we do a similar system where like you actually like create like this multisig with like someone else, a guardian system. And once you actually like start doing transactions through this like 2-on-2 multisig wallet, like once you actually submit like a transaction, you cannot actually like override the transaction because like the guardian will make sure that like you cannot override the transaction that you just submitted. So this actually allows us to like build our like next transaction immediately after looking at your like first transaction that you have submitted, because like once you have like these two signatures, there is like no way you can actually like override the transaction. So we can completely skip confirmations. So I would say like the innovation we actually brought like with our like system is more like of a finality as a service. So all of us know that like finality is actually given by like Bitcoin and like these blockchains after confirmations, right? So we actually are like trying to create this like a multi-chain like finality as a service layer that actually lets us like give you finality immediately after like we actually see two signatures. So that's how our like system is built. And again, like we will actually have our white paper out soon so that you can actually look at like final details of like how we are doing all these things.
Let me ask you guys the last question.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, opinions, like you've seen BTCB, it's grown pretty fast.
Yep.
And I look at Lightning Network, and again, I don't know as much as you guys do probably. There's more use cases around BTCB than, like I look at Lightning Network, I have a node, it's not easy to use.
Yep.
I don't see the value in Lightning Network. Like I just, if I look at BTCB, I mean, do you guys agree with that theory?
So like, for example, right, like in the demo that you just saw, like you never know that like Lightning Network tech was being used, right? Like it literally like is completely abstracted away from you. Like, so the Lightning Network that is like currently set up needs like a lot of technical knowledge to actually set up, run it, and like do all these things. So for example, right, like there is like a specific difference between us and BTCB. BTCB is like trying to be like doing more things than just like allowing like simple trades, because like you are actually getting this wrapped asset and you can use these wrapped assets in like multiple ways. So to actually like achieve it, like they have to like take different trade-offs, as we were just like talking, where they have to like manage this like incentivized custodian network. Currently, which is like, I think 5 nodes, I think. I might be wrong. So like currently, yeah, like it's like a pretty centralized like pool of nodes that actually like hold everyone's like Bitcoins, and like then like you get BTCB and you can use it. So like, and we saw like a lot of cross-chain protocols that get hacked like over the last 2 years, right? Like there is like more than.
Isn't his thing that he's using hardware to help, prevent those types of hacking?
So again, right, like you would not know until someone actually hacks it. Like, I mean, the systems, again, right, like a lot of systems that do get like hacked, for example, even like ThoughtChain and stuff, they said that like they were using like keys and stuff to actually like improve security, but like it did not help them from like being hacked over the last year, like multiple times. So again, like securing cross-chain systems are like pretty hard. As we know, like, I mean, we have like tried to secure like one for like 4 years, and it's like pain, like extreme pain, because of the custodian network. There are way too many like moving parts and stuff. So we wanted to create a system that does not have it and actually like solves 90% of our problems, which is like the trading aspect of things. And like for like, let's say lending aspects and these things, like there are like good assets like WBTC and stuff, which we can actually like swap into, and like they can just like use WBTC to actually like use as collateral to actually like lend against. So we are, yeah, again, like we are just like focused on just like one vertical of like cross-chain, like the cross-chain trading aspect of things, and not like the whole cross-chain wrapped assets angle anywhere. Because again, like we believe that yeah, wrapped assets are always like insecure compared to just like having. So for example, right, like wrapped assets is you have to like, for example, as long as you hold wrapped assets, you have to be like afraid that like it could get hacked and your like BTC will be like worth nothing. So like yeah, with like a system like ours, you either have Bitcoin or you have like Joe, which is like good, like because these are the only assets you care about. So you are just like done with it. Like once your trade is done, and you don't have to like trust us that like we have to be like secure like over the long term.
So can I go backwards the other way too?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, you
Go
can.
back the other way from Joe to Bitcoin?
Yep. With the same speed.
That's my savings account.
Yeah.
Sell the Joe token.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're interested in trying it out for yourselves, head to catalog.fi and join the waitlist. Give us a follow on Twitter. We should have a demo launching, like a private beta in the coming weeks, and then we'll open that up publicly later in Q2. So.
That is a good use case, but this core is kind of cumbersome. You know, if you guys can make it easy to save.
100% agree, yeah. Any more questions? Catalog.fi.
You guys like this t-shirt, yes, it's like catch me there, like you guys.
Cool, yeah, I think that just about does it for time. So might call it there. Thank you so much for attending. And if you have any other questions, we'll be here the next 2 days. We'll be around the area, so feel free to give us a poke. Thank you, guys.